Okay, so let's jump right into it. The encounter card system. So let's say you guys all hit an encounter. Our party just ran across a big baddie, and that monster spawns, and we have to fight it. So what is going to happen here is you have 6 total encounter cards possible to use, and I'll put them in some sort of semblance of order here for you. The action card. The action card lets you do everything basic, like your attacks, any type of normal action you would be performing. Utility card is usually for things like drinking potions, but action and utility is usually used in combination with each other for a single action that's like a super powerful action across different paths that we have available in the world of Adia. You'll see that during character creation, but I'll give you an example. One is a racial ability called Wild Charge from the Tuskar race, and you use, I believe it's an action and a position card in conjunction with each other. And that single action allows you to charge it at a line of enemies and do damage across that entire line or grouping of them. Any ones that you pass through take damage for that. So once you play an action, or these cards, I'm sorry, we'll skip back. I'm jumping around. Okay, so action, utility, position. Normally, position cards on their own during any phase of battle. So there are rounds that happen in battle, and each round consists of 6 phases. In any phase of battle, you can move your normal walk speed. You'll see on the character sheet a little bit later. Plus, play any of these cards. If you play a position card, it allows you to double that walk speed. So basically, your walk speed now is another second walk speed. The regen card, is played up in the pending zone, and we'll go over this in a moment, but the regen stays in the pending zone, and as long as you perform no other actions, it stays in the pending zone, and you will gain back your toughness modifier multiplied by 2 in health while that's happening. So essentially, it's a way for you to sort of phase out of combat, heal yourself up to jump back in later rounds for bigger fights. And then the final thing, the spell card. Spell cards are either instant, which go right to active, or they go into the pending zone. If they go into the pending zone and it takes a casting amount of time, you put the number of phases it will take for the spell to go off, and then you count those down at the beginning of each phase following that to keep track of when that spell goes off. The moment the spell is cast, not cast, but it activates, you move it to the active zone, and it sits there if it's over phases. So if it lasts for 4 or 5 phases, again, you count down again from there. If it comes right out of the pending zone and is a one-off, big spell, as soon as that phase is done, it moves to your discard. And then the last one, the jack of all trades here, is the refresh card. And I shouldn't say that. It really just has a very important role. And what the refresh card does is it allows you, so all of the cards that are stuck here in your discard, if you're in the middle of a round and you need to get those back, you send your old little friend here, Mr. Refresh card, over to your discard, and everything that was in your discard returns to your hand. What's important to note is at the end of any round, so after the 6th phase, and you start your first phase in round 2, for example, any cards that have been discarded return back to your hand. And this is important because if you end up having enough encounter cards, which you can purchase with experience in the game, it allows you to bank up more actions. If you feel like you're going to be just hitting things a lot, then you're going to want to add extra action cards to your character deck. If you feel like you're going to want to be moving a lot, you would add more position. And if you have like special abilities that require 2 card combinations, you can use those experience points to build up the amount of those in your hand, so you don't have to worry about the possibility of not being able to, or having to refresh too often. Once you use a refresh in a round, it essentially goes away until the next round starts. And that's really important because when you refresh from the discard, you can't, for example, refresh a refresh card because we didn't want an infinite loop in refresh cards. So essentially, when you use a refresh card, it doesn't come back until the end of the round back into your hand. And I think that's the basics of how these cards operate on their own. I'll walk you through an example of like a character and how they perform over one round of combat. So round one, I am, let's say I'm an assassin and I want to hit something. So that something is about 10 feet away from me, so I can use my standard movement and move to that target. When I do so, I could say I'm attacking that target. I use an action card. I take my 3d8 and I roll my 3d8. Let's say the dodge value for my enemy is 10. So as long as I roll a 10, I will be able to hit this target. Ooh, and look what I rolled. That's actually a pretty damn good roll. I rolled 1, 2, and 2 8s. So I definitely hit the target. But with our system, every 8 you roll, let's say my weapon only does a single d6 damage. For every 8 I rolled, I get to roll another d6 of damage. So where my single d6 of damage would have just been happening, because I rolled those 2 8s, I now get to roll 3d6. I roll my 3d6, and I get a total of 7 damage. So 7 damage would be going toward that target. There are armor things that come into factor, so I'm not going to go into the depth of them, but basically 7 damage is hitting that target, and then how it's being mitigated will be handled by the creature itself. And that's essentially round one for my character. That's what I did. That's all I could do, because our system, our encounter system, allows essentially a single action to be carried out. And the way that you guys can look at it, because some people were asking questions, oh, so it's like a random deck and it's a deck builder, so I just have a bunch of cards and I sort of like randomly play a card and I have to take that ability. That's not how this works. These cards are general cards that let you trigger a specific set of abilities. So in round one, I used and for this example, I only have one of each card for this character. I used my action, and it's now my discard. I go. So everybody else takes their turn, the monster takes their turn, all that fun stuff happens. So in round one, I took my action. Round two, I decide that I got a little bit too close to my enemy. So I don't have another action left, so I cannot attack my enemy again. I'm going to double up my position, or I'm going to use my position card to move basically my walk speed times 2. So let's say my walk speed is around 15. I now can move 30 feet away from my target, which I will do to try to get out of the mess that I've created. And that is my round 2. So I didn't perform any damage, but I was able to strategically move out of the way. In round 3, let's say something weird happened and I ended up taking damage, but I have a healing potion in my pouch. In round 3, I decide I'm going to use a utility card to be able to heal myself with that potion. That's one thing that utility cards do. They also allow you to reload weapons or switch weapons. So if you had like 2 daggers and wanted to switch to a bow, and actually, you know what? That's a better example. Instead of using that potion, I thought about it for a second. I said, hey, I think I can survive this. I'm now at range, and my sneak attack benefit's going to be good at range too. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to use my utility to switch from my 2 daggers to my bow. And that's all you do in that round. You switch out weapons. So round 3, I switched my weapons. Sorry, phase 3. I switched out my weapons. We're now in phase 4. And I realize now that I burnt my only action card. Now, I will tell you this is not a common occurrence, because starting characters do start with multiples of these cards. But for example's sake, I use my action card. And now I can't shoot my bow because I don't have an action available to shoot my bow. I am going to go ahead and on this round use my refresh card in the active zone, slide it over to discard, get all of my cards back to my hand. So in round 4, I got my cards back to be able to really come back with the vengeance here. In round 5, I go ahead and take that shot. Or sorry, I say phase 5. In phase 5, I go ahead and take that shot. And with my action card, again, we're going to do little d8s. 8 was my DV for the target, the dodge value. 10 was the dodge value. And my 3 4s hit. I don't get any bonuses to damage. My bow, let's say, is a little bit stronger than my dagger, so I roll 2 d6 base for that. And I do 8 total damage, and that's mitigated in some way with the armor. And then that is 5, phase 6. I'm looking at my options, and I decide to maybe just regen in this final phase. So I go to regen, put that in my pending. I get 2 times my toughness modifier and health back, and then the end of phase 6, we go into round 2, and in round 2, I get all of my cards back from my discard, and yippee-ki-yay, we go again. So I hope that helps dispel some of the speculation on how the encounter system works. I hope it makes it a little bit clearer for anybody who has questions about it. As always, we are available to talk about it either in the comments on our Kickstarter page or on our Discord. So please join us there if you have any further questions, comments, or concerns about the system. We understand this is new. We understand this is different. We understand that some people will look at this and say, oh, well, it just slows down combat. We've tested, and in a lot of our testing, we found that people, especially GMs, enjoy this because of the sort of matter-of-factness of how people can perform actions and tracking all those actions. Also, one of the reasons we made this decision, I'll get this out of the way, is for us to have a solo system. We needed some sort of action mitigation to be able to build our modules and balance our characters, or at least our monsters, or creatures. So,
Well, back in now, guys.
yeah. All right,
I want that aggressive harmonic.
Sean, is there anything else you want to share with the community before we sign off for the night?
Origins is coming up. I know we talked about that briefly. I'll just say this: expect to see some Smunchy Games shirts at Origin. So if you are going to the Origins convention, which is when, Will? That's June.
June 12th to the 16th, I believe. It's either June 12th or 13th. It's a long one. It's a long one. It's a long haul. Yeah, 12th to the 16th in Columbus. I'm gonna say Columbus, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So
Columbus,
expect
16th.
to see some of those shirts for sure.
Yeah, we'll be around.
Yep.
Take
And
pictures of us. Do nerdy things.
right. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And we will also have hats with us if you're interested while you're there. We may have Ukrka, which is our upcoming board game based in the world of Paths.
Did you see Marine's face right now?
I
wanna go.
He's like, what?
I want to go now.
And we'll have another surprise with us that you can all test and play and get an idea of the Smunchy family of games that we're starting out with.
That's right. Yep. So, and again, I'm going to repeat what Will said. For everyone who has backed, everyone who's shared, everyone who's been a part of this community, thank you so much. You guys have been amazing. We are on our way to 70%. It's pretty incredible to see this. So, please, I'm going to ask if you have any feedback about the game. We would love to hear it.
Yes,
please go into the rules, read the rules, or ask us about the rules. Ask us about the game. Will offered to be game master. We do plan to have more game master involvement in Smunchy games. So if you are a game master, aka dungeon master of any kind, and you kind of want a head start in, yep, come join our Discord or give one of us a call. But either way, we're going to be doing some really cool things. So you're going to want to get in early, and you're going to want to get in now, because later on down the road, we don't want you to miss out on those things. Because this, typically, we always hear the thing of FOMO, fear of missing out. This really is one of those things you don't want to miss out on. This is pretty big. So please get in while you can, and just thank you for joining us tonight. This was fun.
Thank you all very much. Good night.
Yes, I gotta come up with money to go to Origin.
Love you all. Have a wonderful night.
Good evening,